Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance.
I tricked my cheating wife into publicly admitting to having an affair and getting an STD from it. It's all over. The first one is titled, Wife Cheated, so I tricked her into publicly admitting to having the affair and herpes. In college, I met the woman who I thought was my one. We dated for about 2 years and had a big-ass wedding after a 10-month engagement. Her family was pretty well-to-do in a small southern town. We were both continuing our educations and I was also working to support us. I was pursuing a master's in engineering while she was finishing her doctorate in anthropology. Over the summer an opportunity came up for her to make some extra money going as an aide on a religious studies trip to Jamaica. I didn't hesitate when she asked me about it. I mean, she was going to get to visit Jamaica and get paid for it. I saw no downside other than missing her being at home for 6 weeks. Little did I know at the time, but she had been ducking the professor. He had hung out with us, smoked my weed and drank my ducking beer. I considered him a friend who arranged the trip for a couple months, and it was a getaway for them to bang all over the island. I, clueless and happy, went about the weeks while she was gone taking extra shifts so I could match what she made in our account and surprise her. What a dip crap, right? One of the students from the trip actually seeked me out to clue me in. I didn't believe him until I started looking for evidence on my own. I broke down and checked her texts while she was sleeping, and nothing was there. There were a few VMs, so I decided to listen, and there it was. A message from that giant butthole saying how exciting it was that I almost caught them. I opened up her laptop and hit the emails after that. It was piles and piles of crap. Making fun of me for not knowing. Ducking in our bed and laughing about it. There was so much, and I was so heartbroken. Still too hurt to take any action, I was lost. I had no idea what to do, so I sat on it for a couple weeks and acted as normally as I could. I noticed everything now. I felt so stupid for not seeing it before. So many signs. One stuck out in particular. I noticed that our stash of homemade weed lube, if you've never tried it, I highly recommend giving it a go, was going down even though we weren't having sex. It was obvious they were also using the fruits of my labor to get off more effectively. This really pissed me off. Like unreasonably so, Hulk ducking mad. It finally all hit me. I was a goddamn joke to these buttholes, and they were using the lube I made and ducking in my bed. I didn't hurt anymore, I just wanted to make them hurt. So, while she was studying at the library, I made a new batch of lube. I put enough weed in it for it to smell like normal, but I also added some poison ivy from our backyard to the mixture, and after refilling the spray bottle we used for application, I waited. A few days go by and I'm working extra so I can be out of the house more, and bam, bait taken. That night after she goes to sleep my plan goes into action. I sneak her phone away and delete my contact, while replacing his phone number in his contact as mine. I go to bed but can't sleep because it feels like I'm 5 and tomorrow is Christmas. Dawn arrives and she's in the shower. I get a text. I'm super itchy, are you okay? Now Lord, now is my time. Look, I thought it had cleared up, but I guess I had a flare up. I'm sorry, but I've got herpes, and I guess you do now too. I heard this witch squeak in the shower. I'm covering my mouth, damn near losing it. I went on to tell her that it was time to end things now. A new semester was about to start and I kind of have a little crush on another TA. I wanted her mad. This is a woman that never got told no growing up, and never had to deal with rejection. Let alone from a balding dude in his 50s with herpes. When she got out of the shower it was obvious. She had been crying, but I could see the anger in her eyes. I could see how uncomfortable she was, squirming at the table drinking coffee and mulling the situation over. Another little nudge is what she needed. The reply she got to her pages and pages of anger and sadness was, "Thanks for the good times, but can you keep this a secret between us? I don't want to ruin my chances with anyone else. She's flush with anger now, just seething. She gathered her keys and headed out the door without even saying goodbye. I knew where she was going. I booted up her laptop and set it to reformat, deleting her dissertation and any notes pertaining to it before following her to campus. I parked a few lots over and rush over to his office where I find her screaming at him for giving her herpes. There's lots of people there. Professors, aides, students, other faculty. I'm dying. He is beyond embarrassed and confused as duck. She is ugly, crying in front of her peers. I'm in heaven. I didn't even care that people were going to think I had herpes too. The fallout was apocalyptic in their department. He lost his job due to code of conduct at the university. We got divorced the following year. State law was we had to be separated for 1 full year before being granted a divorce. I got to keep most of the assets, primarily savings, and not a ton, but I worked for it. She never finished her doctorate and went on to be a perpetually pregnant housewife that sells Herbalife on Facebook, and he teaches high school now. It took a few years for it all to unfold, but watching it was glorious. The next one is titled, My 30M, GF, 28F, of almost 10 years has been cheating with a 50M, former coworker for months. September of this year would have made 10 years with GF. We have been together since college. We are the only people we have each been with for more than a few months. The only people we had each slept with. We have grown into adults together. Experienced all life has to offer both good and bad. Last March, right before Corona hit, we sold our house and moved from a small town in a rural state to the suburbs of a much more populated state outside a major city for a promotion I got. She was hesitant to go, but we wanted to have new life experiences and see what living in a more populated area had to offer, so we went for it. When COVID hit, she couldn't find a job for months. She finally did, but was not happy with it. Her mental health declined, as I was working 6 and 7 days a week as a manager for an essential business during the pandemic. At the start of November, she said she had a mental breakdown at work and couldn't go back for a while. She then left for 8 nights unannounced and did not communicate much at all. Said she was staying with her one good work friend, but there were other people with them doing drugs. They were working on getting another friend into rehab. I was shocked and worried because this was not like her at all. She comes back for a week. Tries going back to work and can't even make it a full day. Quits. At this point she's apologizing, saying she needs to focus on her mental health. She has to get through this on her own. Needs some time and space. Ends up getting her own place without telling me. Moves out most of her stuff. The whole time I'm trying to support her, be there for her, give her space, whatever she needs. She keeps apologizing. I knew something was going on. A month later, one of her former coworkers FB messages me a picture of her and this guy taking a selfie. Says she's sorry, but I needed to know. Says they have been seeing each other since September. The guy is married with kids and his wife had cancer not long ago. Says he's also a recovering addict who relapsed at the start of the year. She finally calls and confesses the next day after I messaged her about it. Says they're in love. Her a 28F is in love with a 50M recovering, maybe, married drug addict. He treats her right and takes care of her in ways I don't. He is almost certainly manipulating her. I think this all stems from the passing of her father in 2018 from his own cancer battle. She has never grieved and processed any that trauma. She also has childhood trauma from her mother being a drug addict. Daddy issues, lots of trauma. Depression means she is an easy target for abuse and manipulation. We're obviously done for good, but I wanted to share my story because I feel that it is an unusual one and I am feeling alone in a place without friends or family to talk to right now. Update. I want to thank everyone for the support and kind words as well as the guidance. Most of you, even those younger, have more relationship experience than I do. Looking back, I have been enabling her and haven't seen it for so long. Many of you said this is just as much her fault as it is his, if not more. You are right. Mental illness, anxiety, depression is all valid but don't make her actions okay. The coworker that contacted me said the wife and family know and are obviously very hurt. I am going to go for an STD test as well as seek therapy. Our lease was up after February, but the landlord had someone interested and said she would pay me back for the last month if I can leave, so I will be finding a new place ASAP. All password changed, joint accounts taken care of, credit was already frozen. I think I have everything covered as far as those goes. Last I knew the not getting married question would come up. We have actually been engaged since December 2016. Her father's cancer came back early 2017 and he died March 2018. She hasn't been in any headspace since to get married. We were planning again for 2020 but we moved and then COVID hit. I had my reservations about getting married before she fixed her mental health and anxiety issues as well as her letting her physical fitness completely go downhill as well. I know now it wasn't ever going to get fixed with us together and me there for her. This is all a valuable experience and is for the best as most of you have said. Thank you. The next one is titled, Update, my 30M, GF, 28F, of almost 10 years has been cheating with a 50M, former coworker for months. After finding out the day after Christmas, I spent the next week going back and forth with my ex about different things, splitting phone plans, bank accounts, her taking the rest of her stuff, etc. I've wanted this to end, so I finally agreed to drive to their place so her and I could make a few calls to square some things away and I could give her the rest of her stuff and take care of this mess once and for all. I get there and she comes to my car and stands there to make the first call we need to make. Goes through the phone menus to talk to someone and hangs up. I said, "What are you doing?" She says, "Sorry," and calls again. Same thing, goes through phone menus, gets on hold this time and hangs up. I'm getting pissed at this point obviously, but she throws a folded up piece of paper quickly into my car before hanging up the second time and says, "Don't touch it, read it later, okay?" I say, "Yeah, but what about your stuff and the calls we need to make and everything?" She says, "Don't worry about it," and goes back inside. So, I drive away and read the note immediately, and it's basically a few sentences saying her mother will be calling me but do not text or call her for any reason and it is very important that I do not contact her. So, her mother calls me shortly after. Says my ex that morning called her and said she realized she's ducked up. The guy is up and down on drugs and controlling her every move. Tracking her phone and doesn't want her to leave the house. Trying to take her money and get as much as he can from her. Ex wouldn't say anything about physical abuse, but I'm sure there has been some. Her mother says she is going to get the police involved to get her out of there. My ex told her mother to ask if we could have a talk about everything. That she knows she's made a huge mistake and she will go to therapy and do anything it takes for us to get back together. She has been trying to get away from the guy just to make this call for help to her mother for a while now, and Monday was the first chance she got, she said. So, like the idiot I am, I agreed to meet her tonight in a parking lot at her friend's apartment complex. She told AP she was going there to be with her friend, and he actually let her go. She was paranoid he would show up. He did not show up and we talked for an hour about how sorry she is. How she finally came out of the fog and realized how she's ruined her life and she's scared and stuck with this guy. Doesn't know what to do and has gone to the doctors and is getting therapy. Wants me to work on things with her while she goes to therapy so maybe we can get back the great life she now says she realizes we had. Scared to be alone while trying to fix herself without support. I stood firm on my boundaries with her, that this is all her fault. That she caused this, she's hurt me, and I owe her nothing. It's still so hard because I want to believe her, and we did have a good life for a long time. She seems sincere, of course, that she will get help and change, but I can't give in and trust her. It makes you feel like you're the bad one ending the relationship. I need to continue to respect myself and my boundaries and move on, but I also don't want her to be physically harmed. The next one is titled, Treat Me Like a Game and I Will Show You How It's Played. Her life crumbles whilst mine has never been better. This happened to me about a year ago and my current girlfriend encouraged me to post here and share my experience with my cheating ex and how my life has never been better. My therapist also agrees, so here we go. Throwaway because I am pretty sure my ex knows my main Reddit account. I, 25M, was dating my ex-girlfriend. Let's call her Jess, 24F, for 4.5 years. We met at university as she was in my business management class. We got put together on a huge project for the semester and we just sort of clicked, and after we finished the project, I asked her out, and she said yes. Those first few years together were absolute bliss. We were all lovey-dovey with each other and overall, everything just felt right between us. We rarely argued, and we never got into fights. We communicated clearly and openly with each other. I really thought she was the one that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Hell, I was saving up to buy her a ring, but here I am. During the last half year of our relationship, she began to grow distant and was constantly making excuses on why we couldn't hang out together as much. Both of us, of course, were out of university and we had begun working full-time jobs, so I thought this was normal. Note: we never were living together, but then soon enough she was starting to turn down intimacy. For some background info, me and her have very high libidos. We normally would go at least once a day. I always wore protection, and she was on the pill because neither of us were ready to have kids, thank God. One night we decided to spend the night at her place. I tried to initiate intimacy and of course she turned it down. This was really beginning to piss me off and I voiced my frustrations to her, but she just said that she wasn't feeling comfortable with her body at the time and asked to give her some space when it came to initiating intimacy. I agreed and we both went to bed. Or at least she did. I just had this gut feeling in my stomach that something was off, and I went to snoop on her phone once I knew she was asleep. Yeah, I know this is bad, but I don't regret it one bit, and found out that she was hooking up with her serial cheating ex, 24M. Found messages, pictures and full-blown videos of them ducking. The videos ducking killed me. In those videos she was acting and saying things that really made me look at her as nothing more than a waste of space and a whore. At that very moment all I could feel was hatred towards her. I looked down at her as she was sleeping and all I could feel was visceral disgust. I then took screenshots of all the messages and sent them to me, including the other pics she sent him. Not the videos though, I couldn't bear to send those. I quietly took whatever belongings I still had at her apartment and took them out to my car and went back to my apartment. In the morning she called me and asked me where I was, and I just gave her a quick believable excuse and she bought it. Now here is some background info. Now let me introduce you to one of my close childhood friends. Let's call her Julia, 21F. Julia and I were really close throughout our childhood through high school. Me and her brother are best friends. They live a block away from my parents' home and where I grew up. Now about a year after me and Jess got together, I returned back to my hometown for my cousin's wedding and began hanging out with my old friends, including Julia and her brother. During that night she confessed that she had feelings for me. I turned her down and told her that I already had a girlfriend. She was very understanding and apologized, and after that we didn't really talk as much as I didn't want to give her any indications that I was interested in a relationship with her since I was dating Jess. She was fine with this and understood it with no issues at all. She doesn't use social media, so the only way we would talk is over iMessage. During that time, I took a lot of photos of all of us hanging out with each other again. I went back to university about a week later and I showed Jess where I was and who I was with, as she was interested in seeing who I hung out with during my trip. Whilst we were scrolling through images, a picture of me and Julia popped up. She began to ask questions about her and who she was. I already explained to her that she was a childhood friend of mine and that during the trip she confessed feelings for me, but I shot her down and I showed her the text messages to back it up. And overall, she seemed fine with that. About a year later, during a little argument we had, she confessed to me that she was very insecure about her body and that she grew very insecure after seeing pictures of Julia because Julia had a very slim figure and looked gorgeous. I did my best to calm her fears, but I think in the end she never really got over that. Now back to the story. I messaged my parents back in my hometown and asked them if I could stay at their place for the upcoming week as I have some important things to discuss with them, and they were worried but agreed. I've been telling Jess that I was going down to see my parents as I haven't seen them in a while. I want to visit them, and she didn't bat an eyelid at that. I went to work and met with my boss and explained to him the entire situation, and I asked for a little break, and he told me to take as much time as I need and come back when I'm ready. I went on my way down there during the weekend and told my parents everything. They were truly disgusted with her actions, and my mom told me that if I ever took her back, she was not allowed at their house ever. I told my mom not to worry, I had enough self-dignity to not ever take her back. I then messaged Julia and asked if she and I could talk. She agreed and I went over to her apartment. I explained everything that I found out about Jess. I don't know what happened, but I think at that very moment everything kind of hit me and I began to cry profusely, not only because I lost someone I loved, but the fact that I wasted so much time on her and I would never get that time back. Julia was there to console me throughout my entire breakdown. After a little while I calmed down. She brought out some drinks and we just drank, watched movies and played Mario Kart till about 2 a.m. At this point we were both quite tipsy to say the least, and I couldn't really go back to my parents' place. She offered me to stay the night and I did. We went to her room and one thing led to another and we were making out on her bed. Just before we took off our clothes, she told me to take out my phone and to start recording. As you can probably guess, we did the deed quite a few times that night. The entire time we were doing it, Julia was yelling out derogatory things about Jess like, "This pussy is so much tighter than that filthy whore," stuff like that. After our last go I went and stopped recording and we went to bed. I woke up the next day to smell of her making breakfast and we ate together. I asked her why she wanted me to record what we did last night, and she said that she wanted to help me get some payback. I never once mentioned getting revenge on Jess, but I guess Julia knows me pretty well and knows that I would want to get some revenge just for treating me this way. She told me to just send her the audio file from the recording and break up with her. She told me that she still has feelings for me and will wait for me to sort everything out with Jess. I told her I can't promise her anything and she said that was fine, she just wanted me to know. After that we said our goodbyes and I went back to my parents' home, and they were kind of worried, asking where I was last night. I told them me and Julia were just catching up. My parents were relieved, but as my parents got ready for work my dad had a small smirk on his face. Guess he knows what I was doing that night. I went onto my computer and downloaded the video from my phone and edited the video to just audio and a black screen. Once that was done, I spent the rest of the weekend with my friends partying and having fun, as well as spending a lot of time with Julia and maybe having intercourse a few times as well, this time no recording. I informed my boss that I would be returning to work in about a week and he said that was perfectly fine, best boss ever. I then texted Jess that I knew she was hooking up with her ex and I sent all the screenshots. My last message to her ever was, "Treat me like a game and I will show you how it's played," and I attached the audio of me and Julia having sex and then blocked her. Over the next few days, I was getting spam calls and spam messages from a bunch of our mutual friends and her family. I sent them all the screenshots of the text messages that I had, and it was radio silence for the most part after that. Her parents called me and apologized for their daughter's behavior, and that was that. Where I am now about 1 year later. I just had my 26th birthday with my family and girlfriend of close to 1 year, Julia, who is now 22. I recently got a promotion at my work and Julia just moved in with me and she is going to graduate in a little over a week from now. She transferred over to the university I went to for her final year. I have a constant workout schedule. I am now 11,165 pounds. I was always pretty skinny while I was growing up. I have never felt prouder of myself, and I feel genuinely cared for in ways that I have never felt before. Now for my ex, a friend told me that apparently, she went through a huge crisis because after I dumped her, she found out he was pregnant and her ex that knocked her up apparently ghosted her. I couldn't be the dad because I never went raw on her. She had an abortion, and her life has been a mess ever since. has an alcohol addiction, and thanks to the video I sent her, she now has huge body insecurity issues that has ruined most of, if not all, her relationships since. For her, I am the one that got away, and for me, she is the largest bullet I ever dodged. I still despise her because those 4.5 years we spent together are lost and I can never get them back. But I am living my best life and I couldn't be happier. My one piece of advice to anyone who has been cheated on: never settle for someone that doesn't respect you. The world is your oyster, go out and live your best life. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.